Well, welcome back to Space Patrol Orion, the show that is one part Star Trek, one part Blake 7, and one part Germany's Got Talent. The Orion has frequently been involved in confrontation with an alien race they call the Frogs, although don't let the name fool you because they look nothing like the frogs you may be thinking of. In either case, actually. Today's episode is Battle for the Sun, or as it's called in Seattle, Mission Impossible. Our intrepid hero McClane has been checking out planetoid N116A, which is all goofy because it should be a lifeless rock. Except there's clearly visible vegetation on the surface, which prompts Yegeloff to ask why he doesn't land to figure out what it's doing there. Well, McClane says he thought about it, but then remembered, oh yeah, the stickler security officer with a massive tattletale complex would probably report him for doing something like that. So she orders engineering to bring them in for the landing, to make clear she thinks this is actually something productive they can be doing, instead of his usual activity of landing on something to prove that he can land on it. He and Mario head out, and sure enough, they find some plants.
Guck mal, Grünzeug.
Ja, fehlt eigentlich nur noch eine Schafherde und die Idylle ist komplett.
Wenn du von Schafen sprichst, meinst du doch bestimmt die dazugehörige Schäferin.
Oh.
Don't make fun of his little Bo Peep fetish. That's kink-shaming, McClane. They collect some samples, and very soon an important guy is giving a lecture about N116A on the official display trampoline. After discussing the changes, the subject turns to how unseasonably warm it's been lately.
Wissen Sie, dass die nördlichen und südlichen Eismeere groteske Temperaturen messen?
Honestly, it just makes me want to vomit.
Gigantische Mengen von Schmelzwasser ab, sodass wir täglich mit Überschwemmungskatastrophen rechnen.
This is German Al Gore. Actually, I was going to refer to him as Al Goring. I thought it would be funny to take Al Gore's name and combine it with a famous German name to make, But then I realized, someone is probably going to assume you're saying that Al Gore is a war criminal, and I'm not trying to go anywhere with that. I just thought it was funny. But never mind. Let's turn to something that is completely non-controversial. Global warming. He explains that the sun is giving off twice as much energy as it should, and if this continues, all life on Earth will be wiped out. Essentially, the sun is going to kill us off while making life further away, like on N116A, have the chance to thrive. The frogs are considered unlikely since they're too far away to benefit from this avenue of attack, so the Orion crew is going to look into it, although they seem to be busy at the moment. Well, they're pretending to be busy anyway. Really, Yegelovsky and Helga are discussing McClane and the potential for fun he is if he could just loosen up when he's dancing. Frankly, though, we have seen their dancing. Nothing is going to help that. Well, orders come in for Orion 8 to check out the other planets in the area, see what's happening. And it turns out it's a case of same shit, different day, as Mario bitches. Grass and moss, moss and grass, he laments. It's like, when did space become so dull? Where's the shepherdess with, 4 Holz for the Hütte? That's what he wants to know. Well, Hassel calls up. Seems that he and Otten had checked out where this rock trail leads, and it's a ship with humans. Except this isn't a human ship that they're familiar with. Well, they catch Otten wondering what he's up to, and they decide to force him onto their ship. Well, luckily McClane and Mario are here finally, and on McClane's order, Mario shoots to disable. Next time, don't make your interplanetary ship out of porcelain. They take the two strangers prisoner. They claim to be researchers, but it's clear they are not from Earth. Thanks to the brain probe, back on the Earth, a collection of experts gets to the bottom of this. They are indeed human after all, although the presence of Bruce Maddox suggests that they probably needed to make sure that they weren't Sung-type androids. The other humans are from Chroma, originally people on the former Neptune colony that joined the rebels. It runs counter to the records of that time that they might still be out there, but, it was 400 years ago. They might have made a mistake. And for whatever reason, Chroma wants nothing to do with Earth and probably doesn't recognize their authority, so they're free to go mucking about with the sun and cause those things to happen on those N-group planetoids. It's speculated that because Chroma's star was already weak, it might be getting weaker, So they're just messing around with our sun in order to counteract that effect.
Chroma ist tatsächlich für die intensivierten Eruptionen auf der Sonne verantwortlich. Sie werden gebeten, an einer außerordentlichen Sitzung teilzunehmen.
Oh, it is to die for. Someone from the Science Center calls up to McClane to confirm the accuracy of the samples, because the potential of them is staggering. So much so that McClane tries calling up his boss, the general, but he can't get put through. So he calls Yegelov's instead, hoping that she can talk to her boss to discuss with him instead. You know, the big swoop has a lot of sway after all. McClane explains that the planetoids can be used as an energy source, and if they told that to Chroma, they could use that instead of, fucking with our sun, which would make any war with them unnecessary. But the scientist just found out, and he has this annoying habit of checking and rechecking to make sure it's all correct instead of jumping to conclusions. But seriously though, McClane's viewpoint is, that's all great, and we need to do that, but right now, there's a planet that's about to be blown up, so why don't we just kind of call a timeout and see what the science says, rather than just, going to before we have a chance to, get out our beakers. McClane wants Earth to negotiate with Chroma, but the computer wants to perform a preemptive strike instead. And who would want to follow Major Touchy-Feely Peace Guy when we've got HAL 9000 telling us we're allowed to go kick some ass? Yegelovs thinks that they should give McClane a chance, though. He'll do it personally so that no one official needs to make this, official. Given that, the big spook is willing to go along with this, with the understanding that if anything goes wrong, the Orion 8 will be considered mysteriously lost in space, although at least without Dr. Smith to screw things up. When they start to get close to Chroma, they bring up one of the captured scientists to talk with them, and are finally told where to come in and land, escorted in by Chroma ships. McClane is supposed to take it in manually, much to his surprise, but they've pulled off harder things than this. The day the Chroma stood still. After landing, the locals send word that McClane and the scientists should board a shuttle and head to the designated spot for discussion. The rest need to stay within 200 meters of the ship if they go outside. McClane agrees, but only one scientist, as insurance that he'll be coming back and that his ship won't be blown up while he's gone. But things seem pretty nice. He sits in this lovely spot with two women, enjoying tea or coffee or something, and declines their cigarettes, not allowed. And McClane obviously always obeys the rules. Of course, we are in SF plot number 176. Matriarchal society encountered by a rugged outsider. The men only do certain things. So yes, we quickly get to the I thought I was going to talk to a man bit. But McClane is flexible enough to quickly get back to the purpose of the mission, not to talk about going where every sci-fi show has gone before with this plot. He explains about heating the sun.
Aber seit Sie auf die Idee gekommen sind, die Sonne künstlich anzuheizen.
Das war eine Idee unserer Wissenschaftler. Wenn wir Rechner und Tüftler brauchen, sind wir auf Männer angewiesen.
That's playing to type. What else you got in there? And a man is in charge of the Department of Killing Spiders. McClane brushes off things about men lacking in common sense to appeal to hers then. Whoever's ass needs kissing, they can have it if it's going to prevent a war. The problem is, while she was ignorant that this plan was affecting the Earth, ultimately she says that if it's their world dying out from a lack of solar energy, or the Earth dying out from too much, she chooses them. That the survival of a peaceful planet is preferable to a planet of warriors. Problem is that when it comes to war, the warriors probably have the advantage. The clue is in the name. Well, McClane is not accepting, let's wipe out your planet without a fight. So when she comments that no man would talk to her that way, he calls this place an Amazon circus, which, I don't know. This planet might have some problems, certainly, but I would never compare it to Amazon's Utopia. That show sucked. Well, bad news comes from Earth. Yegelovs gets a message from her boss that a massive flood has just hit. Not sure how big, but the sight of a bearded man raiding a zoo is certainly cause for concern. The attack is being moved up now, with the Orion 8 stuck here, both from the magnetic field and the fact that even if it wasn't there, Hasso would not leave McClane behind. I mean, after all, McClane is stuck in the dreaded fluffy room. Just imagine the allergens he's got to deal with. Back on Earth, the General is furious when he learns that McClane has been sent to go to Chroma. It's generally preferable not to send your best officer onto the very planet you intend to destroy. Plus, the head honcho of Chroma is wondering why he's here anyway. Why did Earth send him instead of somebody, that showed they're serious about it? A proper diplomatic envoy or a general or an admiral or whatever. Just this major. Well, McClane, of course, can't say that an attack is imminent. It might provoke Chroma into doing something else that could intentionally harm Earth before the attack can be launched. But she is firm that she will not cancel the work on the sun until the ability to use those rocks for energy is proven to her. So it looks like there's going to be fighting after all. And the place looks nice. It'd be a shame to break it. Well, the Orion 8 is not going to just sit there. So after much debate, Yegelovsk is going to take one of the shuttles that's remaining, along with the last prisoner, and try to locate McClane. Their hope is that Chroma won't kill one of their own, and that Yegelovsk will have an easier time getting through to their female leaders than Hasso or Maria would. Incidentally, I can't help but think that this might have something to do with the fact that I'm having trouble with Battlestar Galactica right now. See, I just keep waiting for by your command. McCain finally levels with the big cheese what's going to happen if she doesn't do something now. So she tells him that he needs to tell Earth that what's being to the sun won't stop if Chroma is destroyed, that they would be destroying the controls that can restore things to normal. Well, that's something of a bluff, but things go rapidly downhill when she finds out that Yegelovsk is here with that guy at gunpoint. She quickly gets locked up, and McClane is tossed in to join her, even more unhappy to see her than usual.
Verstehen Sie nicht, Chroma wird eliminiert.
Na und, kann ich es vielleicht verhindern?
Haben Sie mit der Frau gesprochen?
Was dachten Sie denn, was ich mit ihr habe?
Und?
Sie hat mir erklärt, was eine Nachtigall ist.
Oh, that probably sounds weird out of context. I didn't tell you any of the stuff about the nightingales because I didn't know it was a plot point. So she asks if that lady in charge is hot. And McClane's like, why does that matter? And she's like, it matters. He's like, what the hell? Why could that possibly matter to you whether or not I think she's hot? Give me one good reason. Very good reason. Well, the big swinging chick pops in to say that she has canceled the experiment and informed Earth, eliminating the need to blow them all up. And there will be negotiations, but McClane will have to remain for that. A point the General finds absolutely hysterical. He figures this means that these negotiations are only going to last as long as McClane feels like being there, and once he gets sick of it, he's going to come back and that'll end everything. And gotta say, that sounds about right to me too. It never fails that when I cover an episode of a show, especially one of the older ones where the role of men and women gets flip-flopped, I inevitably get called a sexist pig no matter what I say. So, if that's going to happen anyway, I'm going to perform this routine so I can at least get all of the concentrated frustrations in one place. And to show good taste, I shall do so while pretending I am the late comedian and legendary host of Weekend Update, Norm Macdonald. Marvel Comics announced recently that She-Hulk, after years of storylines amplifying her monstrous side, will now be returning to her more classic form in anticipation of her live-action series. While the move is controversial among some who feel this appearance inappropriately sexualizes the character, it does give an undeniable advantage for this appearance over the former one as a symbol of female empowerment. She won't be mistaken for a man. Now, I realize that probably seemed apropos of nothing, but there is an extremely important reason that I had to include this. So this society in Chroma operates more like it's stratified by sex rather than a dominating and submissive like one might normally think. The role of men requires strength in some cases and great intelligence in others. so that it doesn't seem like it's necessarily a society where the women are on top doing the brain stuff and the men are underneath doing brute force kind of things. It's like the women are basically guiding everything and the men are doing all of the complex stuff and the chores. Kind of comes across a bit like a sitcom dad now that I think about it. Please note, I'm just observing. I'm not making a judgment or anything on any of this. If you're going to be mad at me, well, you'll probably be mad at me because you'll assume I'm called Al Gore a Nazi. But anyway, the point is that this episode not only shows us the culmination of all of the sexual tension between McClane and his security officer, it also shows us how committed McClane is to peace and saving lives, to risk his own life to save another planet that is harming the Earth, instead of just going along with things. It shows his strong principles in action. And it also shows how quickly Earth's government is to jumping to violent action with diplomacy off the table, because it is following the recommendations of a computer. What are we seeing here once again? It takes a moral human being to make the decisions that are needed, rather than a machine.